So you may recall that in the weeks leading up to Easter, we hosted a series of meetings, home meetings, where you were invited to come and to share your thoughts and ideas as we reflected on those areas where we're strong and areas where we're challenged to live into our mission to make disciples for the transformation of the world. Today, two of the members of the strategy team, the team that was responsible for those meetings, the team that's responsible for listening and helping us move forward, are here, Greg Freed and Allison Brennan, and they're going to give us a word about what they heard. So let's welcome them this morning.
Good morning, church. Thank you so much for having us. And just to give you a little bit of background and context, we had 15 home meetings and had about 200 church members attend them. And it was about 20 hours of feedback that we received. So then we spent about 10 hours as a team compiling the feedback, going through it, and putting it into a presentation for the Leadership Council that we're going to present later today. So we hope that you feel the love and the prayer that went into this project and this process, and just wanted to give you a little bit of background context for that. And we have been meeting for the past several months, this whole year, just talking about our 5-year plan and trying to come up with a strategy to become better disciples in our church.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor David, for putting the team together. Thank you to the church for attending and for listening. And thank you, Allison, for explaining the team and for the introduction. We can go ahead to the next slide, please. And so what you see here is a word cloud of positive sentiment that we received through the home meetings. On this Pentecost Sunday, I'm particularly proud and grateful for community and inclusivity, which when we say it means that as being a member of this church, you truly feel at home and a member of the family. And I think that we can all take a moment to appreciate and celebrate that, if you would. Yourself. Two other things that are called out here, and were consistently called out in the home meetings, were all of the small groups that the church hosts and the preschools, PCA and MSEE. So thank you for all of the feedback, and let's remember and continue to improve on all of these strengths. Next slide, please. And here you can see we separated out the opportunities into 3 primary categories: communication, community in our church, and our church in the community. What we mean by communication is both seeing the celebration of the impact that we have on ourselves and in our community through our ministries, and also our preferred channels of communication, whether that's paper, email, Instagram, or anything like that, just making sure that we're being talked to in the way that we want to be talked to, and making sure that we're prioritizing that engagement. When it comes to community in our church, the primary thing that we're talking about is generational divides. I do see, some young in the room, but that's the sort of thing that we want to work on, is making sure that as a church body, we get together and we mix across the generations. We do have probably 6 generations total in the church, and so just making sure that we all get to see, celebrate, and worship with each other. And then for our church and the community, again, we have that communication piece about being able to see and celebrate our impact on the greater Winter Park and Orlando community, but also being able to think about and take action on new actions that we can do in the community, and making sure that the church empowers us so that when we think about that idea, we can find a community of like-minded people and really strategize and take action on that for ourselves and on behalf of the church. So those are our core areas of opportunities. Next slide, please. In here we have other topics that the strategy team was asked to consider. One of these is the facility maintenance budget for maintaining these buildings on our campus, and also the Reeves Center. How do we make a sustainable budget so that we always have funds that we can allocate towards that kind of maintenance? The second one on here that I've already mentioned is the Reeves Center, and I'm just curious, by show of hands, how many people in here know what the Reeves Center is? That's a great showing. Thank you very much for being plugged in and informed about the church. And also, by another show of hands, how many people know that there was a General Methodist Conference and that some decisions were made there recently? Excellent. Thank you very much for being plugged in again. And so we've been asked to consider all of these topics in addition to the 3 that we talked about before and make sure that we can make recommendations to the church in order to really provide a framework for how decisions can be made in order to, continue with our strengths and work on our opportunities. Allison?
Thank you so much. And then just as our next steps, we wanted to kind of wrap it up and let you know how our path is moving forward. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be meeting with the Leadership Council right after service today and presenting them with the same information that we're giving you today, but also with a little bit deeper context and a little bit more information with ideas that we have. And then we're also, really going to be plugging into our pillar leaders and our ministry leaders. So you will be receiving a phone call from us soon if you haven't already. You guys are our biggest supporters, and we really need you to push these initiatives that we do decide on with the Leadership Council today. And if you were at the home meetings, we really, really appreciate your presence there and your feedback. But if you haven't felt heard, or if you weren't able to make some of those meetings, you can still give us feedback if you have some. And the email address is up here on the screen. It's info@fumcwp.org. And we just really thank you guys so much.
All right, let's give them, is that it? Yep, thank you so much. Yeah.